Let's go, Georgia TCU. Who will win the national championship game? Of course, that is a boring question, so we're going to spice it up. Comment down below. Do you believe the Bulldogs will cover this massive 13.5-point spread? Boom! I'm looking at you. Yes, you. So, before I give you a really fun fact about Max Duggan and the TCU Horned Frogs, I want to remind you that we're doing something pretty freaking cool for the national championship game. We're going to be doing a pregame, halftime, and postgame show. I have never done this on the channel, the first ever live stream. I hope you guys tune in for that. Max can really run. And he could really throw. He doesn't have many weaknesses as a quarterback. And obviously that dual threat ability is something that can expose Georgia's defense the same way that C.J. Stroud, who is not known for his running, was able, to get vertical while also getting nasty with his legs. That did not sound smooth at all.
Bruh.
But still, his legs were deadly against Georgia in some absolutely critical moments. So obviously Georgia's defense, man, for 2 games in a row has just not looked the absolute best. And obviously the best player for TCU is Quentin Johnston, the big-time wide receiver for the Horned Frogs, who will be a first-round pick. Now, obviously the biggest wild card here, will Keandre Miller actually play, the running back who got hurt? His leg got twisted versus Michigan. If he is healthy, obviously they feel a lot better. Amari DiMercado is actually a really good backup for them, and he had over 140 yards rushing in the semifinal. But for me, I think Miller does give them a little bit more juice, and I do think he will find a way to tough it out. That's just me speculating. But still, I do like TCU's offense in this matchup. I do believe they will move the football some, but I don't think they will be quite as potent. So yeah, I know this looks like a very potent athletic running back, but this is actually D. Winters, their star linebacker who returned a pick six and was just all over the place. TCU not only had 1, but they had 2 pick sixes, as you can see with the Michigan ball signal on his left arm here. So as you could see, TCU is a very explosive team, and one thing that I really do like about them is that they are also sound on special teams. Their kicker, Kell, hit at a game winner earlier this year versus Baylor, and their punt return game is also really potent. So the one thing I really like about TCU's team is in all 3 phases they have a lot of talent, and in all 3 phases they flashed versus Michigan. But this is where things get really fascinating for me, is Georgia's offense, right? Now I know Georgia's defense is reeling. They did miss 2 field goals, so Georgia is not playing the absolute sharpest football on all 3 phases. The fake punt that was successfully executed, well, it was saved by a last-second Kirby Smart timeout. So as of late, Georgia's football team has not played its absolute cleanest in all 3 phases, and that is a little bit alarming, as is the health of Darnell Washington, who, quite frankly, has probably been the most underrated player throughout college football and what he has done with Brock Bowers in their 12 personnel sets. They went to Oscar Delp, a really talented true freshman, but he is not the same player and mismatched Darnell Washington is with Georgia, so his health is going to be very interesting. Ladd McConkey's health is also going to be very interesting. Georgia is already missing, Nolan Smith. They've been missing him for a few weeks, but there are quite a few other key names that are on the injury report right now for Georgia. So I do think Darnell Washington is such a big piece for what they do, and I do believe he is going to tough it out and actually play in the national championship game. And Georgia, of course, has A.D. Mitchell back. He obviously was a big difference early and late for the Bulldogs versus Ohio State. Here he is catching the game-winning touchdown pass. And obviously Stetson Bennett is playing at an extremely high level. And I know Georgia is known for their defense, but quite frankly, it is their offense that really has stood out to me this year. You take a look, they've averaged 6 yards per play in every game this year outside of 1. Their offense has been nothing short of spectacular. I know they only put up 16 points versus Kentucky, but they still did move the football. That was kind of a ball possession weird game on the back-to-back end of back-to-back road games. Other than that, though, Georgia, if it is a neutral site or a home game, their offense is going to be spectacular with Stetson Bennett on the ones and twos. Yes, you do worry about TCU's pick six ability, their ability to force turnovers. Their defense is very experienced. The 3-3-5 stack does make it quirky to block. It's something that you don't play a lot of. Now, Mississippi State, who Georgia played earlier this year, they kind of sort of do some things that TCU does, but TCU's defense is different. They are a very athletic bunch. So for me, it's going to be difficult to block that front, especially if Darnell Washington can't go. I'm looking at you. Yes, you right now. Hope you subscribed. I've hoped you've rang the bell. We are on the road to 2,000 subscribers. I really appreciate you. And now we get to the pick, what you all been waiting for, right? Look, I love the TCU story, and I'm going to say something that I probably shouldn't on an SEC channel, and I know a lot of Georgia fans won't really appreciate it, but last year in this spot, it was very good for the sport of college football that Georgia won the national championship and Alabama had not won yet another title. It is better when college football has national championship variance. We don't want the same teams winning every year. And if Alabama, with a very banged up and young team, would have actually won the national championship, it would not have been good. And now the shoe is on the other foot for Georgia. It is way better, better for the sport if TCU wins this game, because all you hear about is the blue chip ratio stat. All you hear about is you have to recruit in the top 10 nationally, and you got to have the absolute largest and best resources to win national championships. And hopefully that could be debunked if TCU actually does win this game. So there is a piece of me that thinks it is better for the sport at large if TCU actually does find a way to upset Goliath here. Now, putting that aside, I do think Georgia wins this game, and I do think they stomp them. Look, this is a TCU team that has had a lot of good fortune this year. They have had the turnovers that have gone their way. They had a bunch of pretty ridiculous things go their way in the TCU game as well, where, Michigan on, fourth and goal tried to run the Philly special instead of just pounding it in. Michigan on first and goal, tried a quick handoff to a fullback who actually plays linebacker, and it was a fumble. They also had 2 pick sixes go in their favor. Now, I'm not saying pick sixes don't involve skill, but ask most that work in the sport, they will oftentimes point to turnovers being something you can't rely on and relatively lucky. I don't see Georgia doing the same thing. They are a very good turnover team. Also, Georgia's pass protection is really good. They were by far the best in the SEC this year at avoiding sacks. Georgia's offensive line is better than TCU's defensive line. And I would also say vice versa. And a lot of these games are often won in the trenches. And J.J. McCarthy did have a lot of success with his legs and his arm, despite the 2 big turnovers. They were able to get vertical on TCU's defense. And I do think, and I really want you to think of this in the deep depths of your heart. Do you truly believe a Kirby Smart defense for a 3rd consecutive game will get lit up like it did versus LSU, like it did versus Ohio State? I just don't see it. I think Georgia's defense finally finds a way to play better. I know they're missing Nolan Smith and some other key pieces, but I do think they will play better, and I do think they'll put out a very good effort in this spot. So for me, I am actually going to roll with the Dogs, and I also think the Dogs will win by 3 scores. Final score in this one, Georgia 37, TCU 20. Now, don't forget, we will be doing a pregame, halftime, and postgame live stream. I love doing this on the LSU channel. I've never done a live stream for this channel here. Feel free to hit the subscribe button. I'm going to post some links down below, and I hope you guys tune in for that. It is Power Hour SEC. Boom! And tonight, We're doing some teriyaki salmon. Let's go.